Michelob Ultra and Myrtle Beach wholesaler Southern Crown Partners Incorporated know our consumers enjoy relaxing days on the water with Mick Ultra's crisp and refreshing taste in hand. It's important to remember to drink and boat responsibly. Choose to be or to designate a sober skipper before leaving the dock. Do it for your family and friends, your passengers, and everyone else on board. Michelob Ultra salutes all sober skippers who take the pledge. Cheers, and we'll see you on the water.
In Myrtle Beach, you always go at your own pace. Lie out on the sand, lie out by the pool, go boogie boarding, go surfing, walk the boardwalk, walk the marsh walk, golf at one of 90 golf courses, mini golf at one of 50 mini golf courses, fish off a pier, fish from a chartered boat, go shopping, get drinks, eat the freshest seafood. The list is exhaustive, but the experience isn't. You can go all out or do nothing at all. How you relax is up to you. There is so much to do and explore, whether you're traveling with friends, family, or just yourself. With 60 miles of beach, you're going to find your place. If this sounds like what you need, then this is where you belong.
Trilogy Outdoors.
All right, folks, welcome to Trilogy Outdoors Podcast. We're coming to you live, recorded, as always, and this week we're at the Pond Road Storage Studio, and we've got some guests in the studio with us. Stephen, you've, first off, we've arranged a great guest who's calling in and going to be joining us, but we've got some great guests in the studio. I'll let you do the introduction. One's not a guest. One is like, I mean, he's like a celebrity.
I'm your background guy.
Yeah, he is.
He's been on the show before.
Quite a few times.
Of course, we got Captain E running the soundboard. We've got a new, what do we call you, a guest? Ruthie LeMay. Ruthie's been on radio. No, I can't. You don't want to go by Ruthie?
No,
Ruthie.
I go by Ruthie.
Oh,
Ruthie.
sorry.
Well,
She's
I'm
like Captain E. It's Ruthie.
No, but that's what you have on all your stuff, so that's why.
Yeah, so I've done talk shows for the last 16 months for the area, Monday to Friday, 6 till 10.
Yeah,
So y'all been on together just over the phone, right?
Yep.
we have been.
Yeah, you were a guest with her.
Yeah, I've been interviewed by her many times, and she's coming on board. Going to help us out every now and then.
Yep.
So, whose is that, Inglis?
That was me. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Rookie. That would be Chief Joe Hill calling.
Oh, Chief.
That's not one you want to hang up on, but I'll call him back.
He's wanting to go fishing.
Yep.
And then we've got the famous Steve Goldfinch over
Yeah.
here to my right, who doesn't want to go to work.
Duck and work.
He doesn't want to go to work.
So here he is. But we do have a great guest joining us by phone on his way right now to Goldsboro?
Greensboro.
Greensboro.
On his way to Sedgefield Country Club.
Goldsboro is very different than Greensboro.
You got,
They
gold,
are.
you got gold on your mind because of the crash.
Yes,
Everyone's
that's right.
running to gold.
On his way to Greensboro, on his way to a golfing tournament. What's the golfing tournament, Inglis? Help me
That
out.
would be the Greensboro Classic, I think is what they call it, the Wyndham. Is it still the Wyndham, Kevin?
It's the Wyndham Championship. Yes, sir, at
Yep.
Sedgefield.
All right, the voice you hear there is Kevin Kisner.
That's right.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank y'all for having me on.
Glad to have you on the podcast. You're, I guess you're famous. You're famous.
Absolutely famous. What are you talking about? Listen, I'm going to go ahead and say it. He is the next. Kids, don't get mad at me. He is the next analyst for NBC Golf.
There you go.
Oh, what?
Lord.
I'm calling it. But it's going to be like 10 years, right, Kevin? When he
I
finally.
hope so.
It's
I
gonna,
hope I win this week, and they have to hold off for at least 2 more years.
There you go.
Kevin, I'll stump you for 2 years, and then I'll hand over the reins.
Okay.
Okay, you gonna handle it? I think the people in the South might need to have a translator if you had to.
I can talk really quiet like the guy from England.
That's right.
Kevin's on the 9th hole.
Golf clap.
No, they got. The funniest part about being an analyst is they want you to act like you're in the middle of the action while you're sitting in a Zen studio, is
There
what
you
I
go.
call it, a yoga studio.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't really have much energy in here, guys. I think we need to pump in some crowd noise in my ear or something.
Yeah.
It is difficult to do it. I've done something like that before, and it is difficult to sort of get in the mood and, like, be in the place that they want you to be when you're isolated like that.
You're almost acting.
Yeah, well, you are acting,
Yeah.
really. I mean, at least I feel like
I
you are.
remember the analyst across the pond, and he's famous, so I'm blanking right now, but someone walked by me at the Myrtle Beach Classic and said that, "Oh, you sound like the female."
Ben Wright?
I don't know. He talks very quietly because it's golf.
I don't know. Could be Ben Wright. But I'll say one thing. Kevin got to enjoy a little stint as an analyst at one of the wildest golf tournaments on the PGA Tour, and that is the Waste Management Classic. Isn't that correct? That's where you were. That's where you filled in, isn't it?
I did the Tournament of Champions in Maui first, and then my second one was at the Phoenix Open Waste Management. Yeah, the greatest show on
It
green
is.
grass. What do they call it? I don't know what they call it, but it's it can be a bit much out there, especially this year because it rained, so nobody could really walk in the grass. They're all walking on the cart paths, and the infrastructure wasn't ready for that.
Listen, you're all talking about the rain ahead of time when we were off air, and again, not to flog a dead horse,
No, but you can.
I'm from across the pond, and how do you think we all play golf? We don't play in the sun. We don't learn in the sun. I learned to surf off the coast of Wales in huge waves and a 5 mil wetsuit, and I learned to play golf, literally just sloshing through the fairways and the greens. Don't even get me started on the greens.
Well, that's going to happen on Thursday if y'all are playing on Thursday. 20 inches of rain.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it all depends on which way this thing goes, but
Yeah.
hopefully it's almost done by the time it gets up to Greensboro.
I hope
it's
so.
got-
Amen.
Hurricane Debbie to Tropical Storm Debbie, right, so far?
Yep, tropical storm. Well, though it was hurricane and now it's tropical storm,
Yes,
right?
sir.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Hopefully it stays that way. But it's stalling, and that's the problem. We always have trouble on the coast when we have storms that stall and end up dumping tons of
Yeah.
rain, and that's what this one's going to do, I'm afraid.
Well, I've never met Kevin. Never had the honor of meeting Kevin. He did have a good friend of mine on his back for a while, and that would be Dwayne Bach. And Dwayne's brother, actually, were friends of mine when I was in the PGA business. Dwayne and I played college golf together. We played many tours together. And I've never had the privilege of meeting Kevin, but I've heard a lot about him. And Bill Haas told me yesterday on the phone that Kevin is far more outgoing than he is and will be a far better interview than Bill. And now, Bill, hey, Kevin, Bill and I have done 4 TV shows together. Of course, they were fishing. They were all fishing. And he's a little different person on the boat when he's having fun. Trust me, he's a lot more outgoing.
Oh, yeah. I tell people all the time that people could record him around the campfire at midnight, they wouldn't believe that was Bill Haas.
Hey, you are exactly right about that. But you, just like Bill enjoys fishing, and I don't know about your fishing side, and I'm sure you do enjoy fishing, but you enjoy hunting, and you enjoy hunting in the outdoors.
I do. I love it. And fortunate enough to be a part of a farm down there close to you guys that try to spend as much time as I can once it cools off to enjoy the outdoors.
So that's really what I wanted to talk to you about. Thank you for the segue. So, I've got a farm just north of you, about 3 miles, and there's quite a few people in this neck of the woods that have farms, property in that area of Georgetown County. And it is, it's what we call in Georgetown County, it's what we call Plantation Row.
Yep.
It's surrounded by conservation easements everywhere in that neck of the woods. We also have a federal wildlife refuge
That is
right there in Plantersville. So, highly managed area of the state, and especially highly managed area of this area in Georgetown County. And we got news just recently that a developer is trying to put a 3,000 acre, up to 6,000 acres is what it's, what they're talking about. But right now, I think it's 2,500 acres or so that they're proposing in solar farm, in solar panels. And this is obviously a big concern to those of us that own property around it, but this should be a big concern to everybody in Georgetown County. And I wanted to, I know you're concerned about it, and I wanted to sort of give you a voice. You've got a big voice already, but
Yep.
I wanted to give you another voice. We've got 150,000 listeners a week and that care about these issues, and so we wanted to hear your perspective on it. You mind sort of telling us a little bit about it and what your concerns are?
No, yeah, I'd love to. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. And obviously I haven't been able to get down there to attend any of the meetings, but I've done my due diligence on the research of it. And I think the number one sticking point is, or the one point I want to make is that I'm not anti-solar farms. I'm not anti-solar energy. I'm not anti-developers trying to develop land and to make money and to
Sure.
provide energy for us. We all need it, right?
Yep.
I just feel like once I started doing my due diligence and seeing where the maps were and seeing exactly where it was located, and like you said, having that sense of community in that area and getting to know all the landowners, that being from Aiken, I was kind of an outsider when I bought in down there, and everyone in the area has welcomed me with open arms. We all hang out, we all enjoy the outdoors together and go to each other's parties and spend holidays together. And I've just seen the sense of community and how much people care about the land and how much money and resources and things we've put together into this area to try to improve it for outdoor habitat. And once I started looking at this, I was like, man, this is getting really close to home. Surely in South Carolina, we have plenty of rural areas that are not as close to places that private landowners and also government have funded enough money to make the outdoors better. I feel like we can find a better location for it than dumping it right here and trying to do it so quickly. I feel like we all just heard about this in the last few weeks, and they're already trying to get it read through and start moving as soon as possible. And I feel like we can all pump the brakes and put our resources together and try to figure out if this is something we really need in the area.
Well, I hate to state the obvious, but there are well, let me start by saying this.
I love when he does this.
Let me start by saying
I love when he does this.
You got to bite your tongue more than me, buddy.
He does.
Well, I should, but I don't.
Hey, that's why we love him, because he doesn't bite his tongue.
Everybody has a little bit of NIMBY in them, right? NIMBY is not in my backyard, right? Everybody has a little bit of that in them.
Yeah.
But there are truly better places to do some things than others, right? And as you said, you're not opposed to solar energy. I'm not opposed to solar energy in any way, shape, or form until it can't stand on its own two legs economically, and we have to support it via, our tax dollars in order to make it competitive. At that point in time, I start to have heartburn with it. But in theory, assuming it can stand on its own, assuming it can compete economically, assuming that I want to buy that power, I've got no bias against solar farms and solar generation whatsoever, okay? But, however, semicolon, there are better places to put it than right in the middle of a giant piece of land that is heavily managed with conservation easements surrounding it and a federal wildlife refuge abutting it, okay? That is as obvious as I can put that. Now, here's the thing. We all know that money talks, and politics is sort of the backstop for how things work in South Carolina. I mean, that is really at the bottom of everything, right? And when you start to buck the system, when you start to put roadblocks in the way of big money and politics, you start to see the ugly side of this business. And, just this week I started calling around trying to figure out, what's behind all this? Why did they pick this site? Who's behind it? All we know right now is the name of the developer. Why did we choose an area that's got 400 acres of wetlands, that are sensitive wetlands that hold lots of wintering migratory waterfowl? Why did we choose an area like this as opposed to 10 miles west, which is primarily just farmland, upland farmland? I mean, that makes a lot more sense to me. And here's the other weird thing about this property. Okay, in this part of the world, you're talking about minimum $10,000 an acre land. Even with conservation easements, highly managed land, very sought after land. You go 10 miles west, and all of a sudden you're in the $2,000 an acre property. Why are we encumbering with solar panels for probably the next 25 to 35 years? Why are we encumbering with solar panels land that's worth 5 times what it could be worth if you were just to move inland 10 miles? Something about all that smells very fishy to me. And I don't know if it's a play to try to accomplish something else. I haven't figured all that out yet, and I'm not trying to throw conspiracy, but there's just a lot of economic stuff that doesn't add up to me.
Do we know who owns the property yet?
Oh yeah, it's RMS.
So
Yeah, RMS owns it.
Okay.
the energy developer is RMS an energy developer?
No,
or
no,
is
no,
that-
no. RMS owns the land. That's a timber company.
Okay.
RMS owns the land, and this developer, which I think's Utah. You looked it up too, didn't you?
Yeah, it's Utah, and he's going to lease the land. I think he's, signed a pretty extended long-term lease because you have to have those solar
Yeah.
Well-
farms for a long time for it to make up economically worth putting them in. So
Yeah, minimum
I'm sure the
25
timber
years.
guys sitting around, the timber guys from Alabama, he doesn't care about Plantersville, South Carolina. He just sees the dollar signs, and he's like, okay, you can lease my land for all this and put these solar panels on it for
Yep.
sure.
So I called a solar developer that I know. It's not this guy. Okay, I called a solar developer I know that has done some good solar development in the past that I recognize and appreciate as right time, right place. And I called him and I told him about this project, and he said, "Holy crap!" He said, "In the middle of Plantersville?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I would never attempt such a thing." And then we talked about some of the issues, the economic issues, and the land and all the challenges. And he said, "I just don't understand this," which is what gave me started giving me that gut feeling like something's wrong.
Well, and again, when you've got RMS that's timber or lumber, okay, we all know, and I shared the other day with Inglis that you look at the 50-year historical stock chart of lumber, it only goes one way, which is up.
Yeah.
All right, so now you're selling if you're RMS. Now, why I asked about do we know who the energy developer is behind the solar farm is because if you're looking at, again, tax breaks and all of the incentives to go carbon free over however many years here, which depending on who gets in,
Yeah.
which is very important, why you should go vote, all right? That all then links back to the lobbyists and money because they want to use solar energy as a way forward as the main utility scale energy provider. So utility scale energy provider, all right? Let me give you a little background. In the UK, we've gone nuclear. We are going nuclear, bipartisan, all sides, 25 years. We want 25% of all nuclear power to be produced by 2050, 25% of all our energy to be produced by nuclear. Now over here, if you've got lobbyists and everybody from energy providers upward, depending on who's in the White House, that's a hell of a lot of money to build solar farms over nuclear. You've built one nuclear plant in 30 years. Guess how many solar farms you can build to one nuclear plant?
Oh, it is
250.
a huge amount. Nuclear really is the solution to our if we have a carbon dioxide problem, and let's just admit, let's just say that
Yep.
we do. If we have a carbon dioxide problem, nuclear is the only solution to that. I mean, it is the only solution to that. You'll never produce enough power with solar and wind to ever overcome what we need in our economy and to ever overcome the CO2 needs, the problems that we're going to have because of our needs. Nuclear is the only way to go, and we're not even attempting it right now. We're not even attempting it.
So follow the money backwards, and I say work out who the energy developer is long term for maybe 250 of these solar farms, not just the one here, because they and their family and their links are going to be making the generational wealth off of these solar farms. The money will be there, the families will have it, and the people in charge right now will be long gone.
Well, I can tell you exactly. So with my conversation with my solar developer acquaintance, I don't want to call him a friend. He's not a friend. He's an acquaintance. But I could call on him and ask him some of these, general questions. How much would it cost per acre for this developer to lease this land? And it's about $1,000. He said somewhere between $650 and $1,000. If this land's worth $10,000 an acre, it's probably more like $1,000. So it's $1,000 an acre times whatever he's doing. He's got an option up to 6,000 acres, I think, is what it says right now.
Wow.
But you're talking about somewhere between $3 million and $6 million a year to lease this piece of land.
The other issue I have, Stephen, is they keep touting it as good for the community, but in reality, other than building the solar farm, once it's built, there's no jobs produced.
No,
So
there's
the
not.
community doesn't benefit at all from, an impact. If you build a nuclear power plant back to Ruthie's, point, we would have people that had to operate it all the time. You produce jobs, you produce economy spurt, and
Yeah.
everyone benefits from that, right?
And you produce the
So there's
long term.
nobody. All we're doing is weed whacking around the solar panels once we clear cut all the timber, and
Yep.
the Red Mountain guy makes his money off the timber and then gets it leased. Now we got to just pay one guy to go out, or two guys to go out there and make sure the weeds don't overgrow the solar panels.
And I guarantee you, it's going to be, it's going to be one guy that owns 10 tractors, and 100 weed eaters, and he's going to,
Right.
and it's not going to be the poor farmer from Plantersville that's been living on the same 40 acres of land since his great-great-granddad was giving it to him. It's not going to be that guy that gets the contract to mow the 3,000 acres of solar. It's going to be some guy from Columbia or some guy from Greenville.
As soon as I pulled it up, when you sent me the link to it, the first thing I started reading was about how they just keep talking about all the jobs it's going to create.
Oh, that's big.
And I exactly, and I knew at that point that they were trying to convince people to buy in.
Yeah, it's not true. It's just not true. Now I'll tell you, there's a fairly significant property tax impact to the county on these solar, and that concerns me. And I did ask that question of my solar developer buddy too, and he said on a deal like this, it's probably around $1 million a year. They always do fee and lose on these, and he said it's probably somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million a year in money to the county. And so our county is not Horry County. Our county is not Charleston County. Our
Right.
county is constantly in need of money.
money.
And so that concerns me, which means we need to have a voice at the local level. We need to be talking to our county council folks and our zoning folks and let them know what we cannot count on them to do the right thing, which it obviously in all of our opinions has turned this thing away.
Is it approved already?
No.
Okay.
No, there's zoning. When's the next zoning coming up, Kevin? You've looked at this, right?
I feel like we talked about it earlier, Stephen. I thought it was second week of September, maybe.
Yeah. It's coming up. It's coming up quick.
I feel like first reading was then.
So that's 4 weeks from now. 4 or 5 weeks from now, we're going to have a first reading on zoning.
So how close proximity is it to your place, Kevin? Do you know? I mean, have you all?
So they have two sites. They have a north site and a south site, and the very southern tip of the south site would be less than 1 mile to my back gate as the crow flies. So
Wow.
I obviously have a waterfowl farm that we try to attract as many migratory waterfowl as we can, and we feel like, as we've done our research and asked people that have had solar farms go near their farms, that their duck and waterfowl migratory bird population has quickly diminished to almost zero. And they base it on that these birds don't know what that is. They don't know what they are when they fly over it. It looks like a mirror to them,
Right.
or even come down and try to land on it like it could be a lake, and then quickly realize they've messed up and just head out of town. And the amount of money that our government, DNR, and statewide have put into the WMAs, Samworth WMAs on Plantersville Road, and then all these private landowners that all try to attract us waterfowl. In my opinion, I feel like if this comes, it'll all be for naught. It'll all be a total waste of money that we've all tried to harvest and maintain these lands through conservation easements, like Stephen said, and been good stewards to the property to attract waterfowl. And I think it could completely diminish our return.
And Kevin, from waterfowl to water, we already have an issue with clean water here, as has been recently highlighted by a farmer in North Carolina, I believe. But the other truth in terms of building any kind of clean energy plant, solar or otherwise, is the environmental impact on the area's water sources. I think it was just a couple of years ago that the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency announced more than $1 million in penalties against companies for polluting local waterways. Where are we? We're in the low country. What have we got coming? Probably a storm. What do we know? We don't worry so much about the winds here. We worry about the floods.
Yep.
And the culprits in that case just a couple of years ago were solar farms. Everyone goes on about solar farms being more environmentally friendly. Like you've just said, okay, above ground, we've got waterfowl being displaced and disrupted. Underground, we've got water. being polluted, which is already an issue. Those solar farms that I'm talking about, if you want to check it out, were in Illinois, Alabama, and Idaho. And, you know, there's this roadblock, right, between creating new clean energy sources and the impact on the environment, no matter what those energy sources are.
Yeah, nine times out of 10, these solar farms either have fescue or, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think it's crab. It's what's the other grass that they have?
I call it highway grass.
No, not the highway grass. It's the thin.
Bahia grass or
It's
crab grass?
Bahia. There you go, Bahia.
Bahia.
Yeah, it's monoculture. It's not wildflowers and native grasses and stuff that would attract quail or turkey. It's Bahia grass, right? And somebody's got to mow it and weed eat it. And it is not a wildlife attracting thing. Y'all have obviously, and I know you're probably very sensitive to talking about money, and I don't want you to talk about money. But it's clear that everybody in that part of the world, including y'all, have spent a lot of money attempting to create a waterfowl haven, right?
Yep.
And Inglis and I have had this conversation multiple times on this podcast and on the radio. If it would not have been for the private landowners in South Carolina investing gazillions of dollars, we wouldn't have a public waterfowl hunt.
No, I'm a public waterfowl hunter, and I want the Charles Ragsdales, I want the Kevin Kisners, I want those guys to have, great stuff. And I want you to have great stuff because
you wouldn't have it.
I wouldn't have
That's
birds
what
to
we
hunt.
tell people all the time. We want everyone to benefit from what we're building, and we want everyone to attract more ducks. The more ducks there are, the more ducks we get to harvest, the more fun we all get to have enjoying the outdoors.
I mean,
we want everyone to benefit from what we're doing. We want everybody to continue to grow and continue to build the habitat for them. And, just like people down there, they ask what days are we hunting? They like to hunt on the same days we do. And we love that. We want everybody to enjoy the outdoors and to enjoy what we've been able to manage. And to your point, I think we've managed to build a habitat for it and a haven for waterfowl. And if you go by the numbers from before we owned and built what we've built to now, I think everyone would be in total agreement of that.
Yeah, I mean, you're shooting 1,000+ ducks a year, I would imagine, at your property.
We are.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, last year I sat at my impoundment, which was new last year, and I watched at least 3,500 pintails go from refuge over my place to your place, and I cursed you a little bit along the way.
No, he did.
But I mean, I benefit from that because I have ducks that peel off from those giant flocks
Correct.
of birds that peel off and come and take a rest or come and eat at my place and jump back up and go back over to your place. And so I'm happy that you're investing that money and that time and those resources into creating I believe y'all, more than anybody, have created a flyway that may have existed at some point in time, but certainly exists today. I mean, there are tens of thousands of ducks on the PD River Flyway that didn't exist 10 years ago. It just did not exist 10 years ago, and that's because.
And what I've seen is just a variety of species too, Stephen, and that's what I've been the most impressed with is each year we've seen more and more species, more population numbers increase of all species. And I think it will only continue to get better if everyone continues to manage the property and continue to put the groceries down that it takes to have that haven. And everyone gets more excited when when you saw 3,500 pintails. I've been hunting there for 5 seasons now. Never saw a pintail hardly until year and a half ago, and now all of a sudden there's 7,000 sitting on one of my ponds in November. I'm like, what has happened? This is awesome. We've changed the actual flyway, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, we had great birds in the Delta for a while, and Dan Ray's probably responsible for that more than anybody, and Bill Mace. I mean, Bill, I guess I should give credit to Bill more than anybody, because Bill obviously ran the gun club before he ran Dan's place. But I mean, Dan and Bill created a real special thing over there in the Delta, And that held a bunch of birds and brought a bunch of birds to South Carolina that we would not have ever had. And the PD just sort of was the redheaded stepchild. I mean, it had a few wood ducks here and there. Samworth really wasn't doing anything. It wasn't being managed properly for a lot of years. And, I obviously Smith got on everybody about that. I got on everybody about that.
Yep.
Y'all got on everybody about that. And Samworth is coming along now. But the PD really is the jewel now. I mean, the Delta's still great, but the PD really is the jewel of the flyway here in Horry, Georgetown, and Charleston counties. It's a special place that y'all created, and I personally am thankful.
So let's put the hypothetical question out there. Okay, it passes for this solar farm. It gets built. Before it gets built, then what is the accountability to often the construction company, which are often fly-by-night companies in this industry? Okay, you're in and out. Everyone's making a buck. It's the race to clean, recyclable energy. Okay, what's the accountability on them? What's the accountability on, who's graded this land? Has that even been found out? Who's graded the land for this? Because these are the issues that we already know and have already been penalized just a few years previous. I don't know off the top of my head. This is a new subject for me in terms of the location. It's not a new subject in terms of renewable energy, but how do we make it accountable? Kevin, you're next door for all intents and purposes. Has anyone come to you and said, hey, what's your ecosystem like, on your property? What do you know about the ecosystem around here? We're rushing too quickly into trying to lead the charge for, reducing a carbon footprint, but that in itself is knocking onto the ecosystems right in the communities that these solar farms are being built, and if not immediately, 5, 10, 15 years down the line.
Right. Yeah, I haven't personally been contacted, and I don't think any of my partners have been contacted by anyone associated with it. And that's a little bit of the sketchiness in my head is we're going to suddenly let a guy from Utah come develop a farm in rural South Carolina, and the first I'd heard of it was 2 weeks ago, and first readings in 4 weeks. It seems like a quick way to try to slide this through and get it done. And I just think everybody needs to take a chill pill and really find out exactly if this is something that the area wants. I obviously don't live there, so I own land there, but don't live full time there. So I just try to get everybody on hear their opinion, and everybody that has any influence there to understand what is trying to happen, and see if we really need this.
Yeah, I am partial to the term conservationist as opposed to environmentalist. Okay, I am a conservationist. I believe that us as outdoorsmen, hunters, fishermen, we provide a lot more for the habitat, for the animals, for all the critters that we chase than any environmentalist could ever do. And that's, we could show that through empirical data. I mean, that's not just Stephen Goldfinch speaking. I mean, I could go round and around with the best of them all day long, and I know we're not going to do that here today. But with that said, y'all are performing conservation. If let's just say hypothetically, this land was not being proposed for 3,000 acres of solar panels, was being proposed for 3,000 acres of tract homes in the middle of conservation easements and federal wildlife refuge and WMAs, the environmental crowd would be going nuts.
Crazy.
They would be going crazy.
Yep.
Okay? And my dad actually made a great point. The tract homes at least provide somewhere for people to live.
Right.
Right? The solar panels can't even do that. The solar panels provide just as much of a habitat destruction as 3,000 acres of homes for the next 35 years. They're not doing anything for the wildlife. They're not doing anything for people. And by the way, I just looked it up a little while ago. I called Santee Cooper and asked them, what's the comparison? Okay, you can get a 2,500 megawatt, like Cross, for instance, in South Carolina. You can get a 2,500 megawatt gas power plant like they're proposing down in Colleton for 50 acres. This is a 240 megawatt, so 1/10 the size, 10% of the size, for 3,000 acres.
Plus, yeah.
But nobody has said, and here are my two questions that are coming up. Nobody said, is the infrastructure in place already to take that power?
No. So I asked
So
that.
you and I are going to pay.
Yeah, to the tune of $300 million to get it to a transmission line. For update.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
What's the payback on that?
Yeah, federal government.
More than the 37-year life on a solar panel, which is not even accurate.
Right. I mean, the federal government, I'm sure, is subsidizing that, which means we're subsidizing that. But yeah, Santee Cooper says, in their interconnectivity study, approximately $300 million to upgrade the substations and to get power to the transmission lines. $300 million.
Scary. And then the fourth piece of this that I haven't heard yet, which really bothers me, is this is one of the most historically sensitive areas on the East Coast.
Absolutely.
For sure.
The area between Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and Charleston, South Carolina, for 400 years has provided the history of the East Coast and one of the busiest marketplaces for shipping in the world at that time. And these rice plantations are the center of that history. The river bottoms are the center of that history. Changing all that as a scuba diver makes me sick.
Yeah, it makes me very nervous. We haven't even talked about, obviously ecologically sensitive. We haven't even talked about the history. I mean, if you were to propose, again, houses, if you were to propose 3,000 acres of homes in the middle of such a historically sensitive area, you'd be getting protests.
Right, and I think that's a
right.
really, really key point, because really these solar farms should be under the same government and state regulations, right up to federal, as a major construction project, whether it's housing, whether it's infrastructure, roads, whatever. All of these projects are under much stricter regulations, but because the EPA is involved and there doesn't seem to be any kind of clear regulations on so many things under the umbrella of the EPA, these fly-by-night construction projects, whether it be a solar farm or something else that's linked to the latest tax break, are just being pushed through. Yeah. Again, in England, we have the historical preservation societies. Yes, they're a pain in the butt, but they're there for a reason, and a lot of it is we're an island. They're there to also regulate and keep our historical ecosystem and the ecology around it. And you're right, we learn at school about conservation as opposed to environmental issues. There is a big difference trying to conserve what this area has been historically, from rice plantations right through to the farmers' fields right through to the sea. Yeah. You disrupt more than just the land that you raise and level.
Well, I tried to do the math the other day after we started thinking about this, and I was adding up all the different pieces of land from, let's just say, White House out on the point of the river all the way to, let's just say, the Johanna Bridge, okay? And you probably have somewhere in the range of like 50,000 acres under easement. 50,000, and then you've got the Federal Wildlife Refuge, which is also a giant piece of land that Craig does a great job.
I can't believe Craig hadn't gone crazy on this yet.
Craig and I've talked.
Okay.
And I think, Kevin, you talked to Craig about it.
Yeah, I talk to Craig regularly. I love that guy, and I think he does a fantastic job.
He does. And I don't want to drag Craig into this because he could be, he could have issues having worked for the federal government.
Absolutely.
But you got to be concerned about this. If you're concerned about the wildlife, if you're concerned about the migration patterns, if you're concerned about the historical significance, this is the wrong play. You can love solar. You can love it.
But
let's be clear, we probably do need an amalgamation of energy sources going forward. Yeah. Okay, we're not going to just get there by nuclear.
I hung up on Kevin.
But, so solar has its place. It just doesn't have its place right here on this piece of land in Plantsville, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're a huge country.
Yeah,
You're telling me there's no other land that it can go.
No, there is.
Exactly.
There's a scary anecdotal story. There's a 200-acre solar farm now on 701 near Bucksport. Y'all aware of that?
Oh, yeah, I've seen it.
And I drive to Stevens Farm out that way all the time. And did you know that when you're going through pine forest on both sides of 701 South, that the temperature changes when you enter that field?
Oh, I guarantee you.
It goes up by 2 degrees on my thermometer, which is non-scientific, anecdotal at worst comparison. But that when you cross that corner where that solar farm is,
Yep.
you can feel the heat coming off of it
Oh, I guarantee you.
inside the vehicle.
Like a giant mirror.
It's unbelievable. What is that going to do to an environmentally sensitive place? I have no idea.
3,000 acres of it. 3,000
I
acres.
don't know.
Kevin, you still with us?
I'm still here, buddy.
I hung up on you.
He
by
hung up
accident a
on you,
second
sorry.
ago. Hey, are you getting close to your destination? I know you got to go play some golf here shortly.
I'm getting close. I'm already through Charlotte.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, I didn't want to tie you up. You might have to get your head right or something. I don't know what you golf.
Yeah, we don't want you arriving late and causing the kerfuffle of a
Oh yeah, we don't want you pulling a Scheffler by any means.
No. We want you to pull a
Although-
Shepler.
Oh, okay. Well, not
Kevin,
that way.
Kevin,
Although,
you can go pull a Shepler. You want to talk about hot? Holy mackerel!
although gold looks better than him on orange, right?
Yes.
Oh man,
Sorry.
Oh wow, that's so funny.
what a weird story.
That is a weird story.
So that's done with, right? Completely gone.
Yeah, it
it's
got
gone.
Do it out.
dismissed. Yeah, it got
Yeah,
dismissed.
That got away.
It got thrown out,
Yeah, as it should have.
as it should
And
have.
congrats to Schaefer. There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Kevin, are you 40?
I'm 40, yeah. I turned
That's what I
40 this
thought.
year in February.
You know, I think back to B.J. Singh. You know, when he hit 40, you know, a light switch turned on.
I know I'm waiting on mine to switch up.
Hey,
Well, Kevin, everything happens a little later in guys.
yeah, you and Bill sound just alike. That is exactly what Bill was texting yesterday. And I tell you, I followed Bill here for the Myrtle Beach Classic. I know we're going to talk golf for a second, but I followed Bill. I've been good friends with Bill and Jay for a while, and followed him for both days of the Myrtle Beach Classic. And golf swing wise, he looked as solid as I've seen him in years. You know, I know he went through a lot of stuff, you know, health wise and some other stuff. But he looked as solid. But, man, his putting was definitely not where it was and where he wants it to be, I know. But he hit the ball great. He really did.
Bill's always been one of the most pure ball strikers I've ever seen. I grew up playing against him. He's a few years older than me, but you know, he's one of those guys that can roll out of bed and just strike a 7-iron right out of the middle of the face every time. And I've always been just fascinated by that. And I think as he's gotten older, everything just gets a little harder.
Oh, yeah.
He hadn't been able to play, you know, in a consistent schedule where you feel like you get into a groove, which I'm starting to find is part of the hardest part of it is, you know, you play and you start playing better, and that breeds confidence. The more confidence you have, the better you play. And you know, like if he goes and finishes 30th in a tournament, you know, that's the start of a confidence builder, and then you don't get in the tournament.
Yep, for a few weeks.
Bro, so
Well,
he can get in a few in a row and start playing well. I think he'll really knock some good finishes off.
well, I think that falls for you too, brother. We've been a huge fan of you. My dad is a huge fan of yours. When I told him that we were interviewing you today, my dad is the 2025 inductee into the South Carolina Golf Hall of Fame. I was telling Senator about this. He'll be the inductee for 2025, but he is a huge fan of yours, and
Awesome.
always talks about how pure your swing is. And I told him,
a couple years of it not feeling too pure, so maybe I need him to send me some videos.
Yep, go watch some old videos. You know, it's amazing with golf how something small can click. You know that. I mean, you see guys come out of nowhere and all of a sudden they have an incredible week, and just that one thing, one swing thought clicked, or you know, that one thing you did back in college, you know, maybe in your pre-shot routine or whatever for putting or anything, and something just clicks, and it happens. But 40 is by far not young in the world of golf, but 40 is not old either. So you
No, sir.
don't
Just
start.
gonna, wait it out for 10 more years and slide on into that free retirement
Look.
on the Champions Tour.
And Kevin,
Yeah.
Kevin, everyone here is, I think, over 40. I'm just over 40. And I can tell
He admitted
you,
it.
No, I always say I'm in my 40s. Like, hey, and here's why. Because especially nowadays, it's a cliche, but I remember when I was a kid, my mum and dad's 40th, and it was like everybody bought over the hill cards, and it was a huge birthday, but you definitely knew, hey, so-and-so's parents are getting divorced because the dad's getting a fast car and the mum's going off to do her own thing finally, And I don't think that's the case so much anymore, well, maybe in those examples, but I think that I speak for many people, when you get to 40, your confidence kind of becomes more relaxed and innate in yourself,
Yep.
in your mind, in your abilities, in your body. And if you allow it to come in, if you allow it and you don't fight it, I think that's why we see so many in industry, sports, entertainment, whatever. Once you go into your 40s, almost kind of succeed even further into realms that they didn't even think that they could succeed themselves. But you have to let it just almost kind of wash into you. Okay, don't fight it. There you go. It's a feminine perspective.
I tell you, I had the pleasure of meeting another Kevin during the Myrtle Beach Golf Classic. I took him fishing. Kevin Chappell and his son. I took them.
That's one of my best buddies.
Dude, that is one of the best dudes I have ever met. And I'm going to tell you now, I'm
So you took his son Wyatt. That's right. Wyatt caught a couple flounder.
Did you hear about the 5.6 pounder that Wyatt caught with no bait on the hook?
I heard. I saw it.
Yeah.
He sent me a picture, and I started freaking out. And Chappie's, why are you freaking out?
Yeah.
Damn flounder I've ever seen. He goes, we didn't even have any bait on it.
Yeah.
So Wyatt hit my T-top when he was casting. The bait flew off, and he threw it out, and the rod sat for 1 second and just took off. And I said, you've hooked onto a stingray.
Yeah.
So we're fighting it. And then everybody, Michael Manus. Michael Manus was on the boat.
Yeah.
Complete mayhem ensued when we saw how big it was. And, of course, neither one of them had any idea how awesome the catch was. And then he comes around and catches a 3.5 pounder for a second flounder. And I said, Wyatt, listen, when you come back and go fishing with me in the future, don't expect it to be like this,
You
please.
just need to quit now. Quit while you're ahead.
Yeah, don't expect it to be like this. But, Kevin and I talked about it. And he said, we were talking about the state of golf with LIV and with the PGA Tour and, basically talking about how much of a struggle it was for him to get an exemption into this event. Well, no, I think he was in the event. Chappell was. But Bill,
fewer starts they're getting.
Yes, and he said that the tour, he basically said he felt like the tour was trying to do away with the 40-year-olds and to make room for the young ones. And, when you think back, how many high school kids that we've seen tee it off with you guys now that we would have never seen? Tiger Woods, Phil
16-year-olds.
Mickelson, teeing it off and taking a spot, no offense, that should be yours. Should be, a journeyman who's put their life into the tour and believes in the PGA Tour. I'm getting personal, but my thoughts are, those spots should be yours. Let those kids earn their way there. And I understand it's all about that dollar. It's all about that dollar. Just like you were talking about with that Smiley Kaufman podcast, talking about those commercials. You kept waiting. When's the next commercial? I got to go to the bathroom.
Right.
One
thing about calling golf is when you watch golf, you think there's nothing but commercials, and when you're calling golf, you wonder how the heck is there not a time for a commercial?
Right.
Commercial?
I just come off the back of live radio, and that's exactly how it feels on there as well.
That's how I am every Saturday morning. We do a 2-hour radio show, and we're like going, and I'm like, oh my God, y'all look, we got an hour and 45 minutes left.
I kept looking at you Saturday. That's right.
Good thing about a podcast, we just stop.
Yeah, the podcast, we just stop.
We just hit the stop button.
We just stop.
Go pee when you got to go
That's
pee.
right, gotta pee, grab a bottle. We're in a storage building here.
Yeah, now they tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry, we got something.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man. Unless the Senators got anything else further to go here, I do wish you the best of luck this week, and hope that at some point in time we get to meet. But I did hear that there was some I heard there was some nice beverages enjoyed at your place out of the claret jug. Is that true?
Wow.
There was. I'm really good friends with Brian Harmon. We spent a bunch of time together in the off seasons, hunting all over the country, trying to harvest animals of all sorts. And we always have a duck trip down to Chicora, and he came, and I think all of Plantersville Road except you and the Senator came over and drank out of that thing.
Yep.
Everybody went home with the flu. It was quite a trip. I guess somebody was sick and didn't know it, and they passed that thing around, and I had more women texting me saying I ruined Christmas because everybody had the flu.
Yeah.
Hey, listen,
Oh.
it's better, maybe it's better to get it that way than I wondered what else you guys were doing together.
No doubt.
Well, we'll be looking for the invitation next year.
Yeah, we will. We would,
without the
sir.
flu.
we
Without
would
the
love
flu.
that. Yeah, with no flu, minus the flu.
Yeah, minus the flu. All right. Well, hey, listen, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us, and I wish you the best of luck in the upcoming tournament. And
I appreciate it, man. I look forward to seeing you in the low country. You need anything, keep me updated on the solar farm and where we are. And I appreciate you guys letting me come on and talk about it.
Yeah,
All right.
man.
All right,
Absolutely, Kevin. Have a great one.
take care. Drive safe.
Have a great
All right. Well, that's good.
All righty.
Maybe we'll get that invite.
Kevin Kisner, everybody.
You've been invited. You've been out there.
I have, yeah. I know one of the other partners, and I guess I shouldn't call his name, but
Yeah.
I know one. Actually, I know a couple of the other partners, and I've been invited a few times, and I just have not taken them up on it yet.
You're a busy guy. But what happens to the wags when these things happen? You know what I mean by the wags? The wives and girlfriends.
I was going to say the wives.
The wives and girlfriends. I think they should be left at home to have a big party as well.
Yeah, I think most.
I
of the
think
time
they do.
They
They
do.
do?
They've
All right.
got a pretty swanky place up there, and it's a nice place to hang out. Whether you're duck hunting or just sitting around, it's a nice place to hang
I
out.
call it golf cart duck hunting.
Yeah.
They ride you out in a golf cart, and you walk out in your tennis shoes, shoot your limit.
Well, you know, the one time I went dove hunting with you, which was before Stephen was born, I think. But you sat in the golf cart, or you sat in a side by side the whole time and shot out the side by side,
Yeah, it's easier. It's easier that way.
and then made fun of me because I was missing. But speaking of
need
which, are we going to have a dove hunt this year? Is there going to be doves anywhere?
I've got doves.
You do?
Yeah,
those.
I got a sunflower field and a sorghum field, and this storm, who knows what this storm does. Sometimes they blow the doves out, but right now I've got doves, and I'm going to cut my sunflowers. I'm going to kill my sunflowers as soon as it gets dry enough to get the tractor back in there,
Yep.
and I'm going to kill my sorghum as soon as it gets dry enough to get the tractor back in there, and then I'm going to cut some rows, and we'll have some doves, God willing. September 5th this year?
Yep.
Is that Labor Day this year?
Sounds
Labor
right.
Day. Yep. And I've got.
Is it always September 5th?
No,
No, it's always Labor Day Saturday, right?
it's been like first, second, third.
But it's the 5th this year.
It is. Hey, fact checker.
Fact check me.
Fact checker.
Yeah, you're our Google guy.
You're not
Fact
saying
checker.
you're not saying fat, are you?
No,
No,
fact
okay, I just
checker.
wanted
And
to
by
make
the way, there's no fat on you, brother.
The first is a Sunday, so the seventh is
Seventh.
a Saturday.
Well, that's good.
Maybe they're going to do it 31st.
No
No.
way.
No way.
It's always the first. Yeah, it's always in September.
It's always that first Saturday in.
Yeah, so that's good. That'll give me another few
Seventh.
days to dry
That's
the
another
fields.
full week.
Dry the fields out. That's good.
Well, I'm getting ready to run to the vet with our new foster dog that we're fostering, a 3-year-old
You got
German,
Nice.
another
German short hair.
dog?
German short hair, 3-year-old, fully trained, ready to go. Awesome dog, but completely scared of storms. I've already got a picture. She's in the bathtub right now.
What about
This is your
guns?
third dog?
No, supposedly no good, not bad with guns. Yeah, third dog. I'll tell you the story. I don't want to do it on air. I'll tell you the story why.
Okay.
We hunted with a German short hair in Africa, right?
Yeah, we did. It was great.
I saw the pictures. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was very young and still learning, but
Intuitive.
very intuitive hunter. Had a great nose, and they go through dogs fast there, though.
Well, what we're hoping is that we'll start bringing quail out to put at your place and releasing some quail to do some hunts, and then I'll get her with Belle. And Belle already's naturally she's already keyed in on birds. I mean, she's so good, and she points and everything else.
Good.
But maybe with her being trained, that she can rub off on Belle and have at least maybe one dog to point and one dog to flush or something, but at least have her. But yes, we did adopt a foster, whatever you want to call it. Another dog, and it's
Well, hey, adopt, don't shop if you can. Okay.
Absolutely.
And especially as we go into the storm season, I know that all of the rescues have their social media posts up asking for people to help house the dogs that are adoptable at the moment. So
yep.
if you can.
And the
please
other
go
thing
ahead
is,
and do
when
so.
you're throwing blankets away and things like that,
Yep,
don't
yep.
do it. Take
Yep.
it and donate
Absolutely.
because a lot of these places need them,
Yep.
especially as we start to move into the winter.
Yep, blankets act like thunder vests for dogs, and Yeah, you're right.
So we ordered a Thunder Vest for
yeah, they work great.
Maggie is her name. Maggie. I would have come up with a better name for a hunting dog, but it's Maggie.
What is a Thunder Vest?
It
I don't know
makes
It's like
them,
a weighted
gives them,
vest.
It's a weighted
that you put on
vest.
the dog.
Makes them feel better.
Makes them feel more
Yeah,
comfortable.
like a weighted blanket.
You hadn't seen that?
No, I guess I'm.
That with
Out of the loop.
medication and a set of headphones.
That's how I feel.
So-
a
in other words,
a nice cab from Napa, and
Yeah,
If y'all,
exactly.
see,
Sorted.
if y'all see my dog out in the field with us dove hunting and it has headphones on, a jacket on, yeah, you know
and a
what's
flask
going
of
on.
Cabernet.
Noise canceling headphones. That's next.
Some
That's
ambient. Yeah, some ambient.
Oh, man. All right, Ruthie. We're going to have you back sometime, okay?
Thank you
Soon.
for having me. I enjoyed
Very
it.
soon. Senator, it's good to have you in here.
Good to
and,
see you.
And
Senior.
El Senor.
Senior.
El Jefe.
It's always a pleasure
El
to
Jefe,
see you.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com. Make sure you go click, like, subscribe, share on all the platforms. And we'll be back next week talking fins, fur, and feathers here on Trilogy Outdoors Podcast.
Trilogy Outdoors Podcast is a product of Trilogy Outdoors Media. All views and opinions of our hosts and guests are not necessarily those of our sponsors. Trilogy Outdoors is produced and edited by Trilogy Outdoors Media. Be sure to follow us on all the podcast platforms as well as our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And also don't forget our other brands, Southern English Radio Show and Walk 'Em All Outdoor Magazine. To find more information, visit TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com. And remember, if it's anything dealing with fins, fur, and feathers, you're going to find it right here on Trilogy Outdoors.